welcome back to another episode of Warped Panels. We are currently suffering the worst thing that could ever happen to us. We're suffering from the heinous writer's block. And both myself, our host, Matthew Paul, also known as Godzillius, and I'm also joined by the ever-fabulous Jules Chan. We just can't seem to get over this hurdle of crap going through right now.
Yeah, well, if we lived in an idle world, then we wouldn't have creators doing very questionable things, or the industry trying to reinvent itself only to land on its face.
Yeah, and we'll get more deep about those topics earlier. The first thing I definitely we should talk about. Well, that first thing is there was a young. Trying to remember, my throat's a little parched, guys. I'm sorry. There was a graphic novel called A Handbook for Mortals, and it somehow appeared up on my list because you guys, everyone knows we all read Boy Nerds, we love comic books of all shapes and forms, and it popped up on a New York Times best-selling book. When I saw it on there, I'm like, I have never heard of this book. How the living hell did this got here? No way a book can sell that many units so quickly, and clearly I never heard of it. I mean, hell, I think comicbook.com or Comic Alliance, CBR, somebody would have said something about this, right, Jules?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, sure, maybe, like, there are times where I see stuff on bestseller lists that, of course, there are things I may not have read before, but a comic book, a graphic novel, or even any sort of bestseller book, might have at least heard it
In
somewhere. Yeah, in passing or via pop culture osmosis. This one I had never heard of before.
Right. So various people within the comic book community and the young adult graphic novel community straight up did like an insane amount of research and found out this writer used some seedy connections to put their book with that sticker on it, and found out it was complete fraudulence.
Yeah.
All because the book had an option to become a movie. Which, again, if you wrote a movie script and it gets opted to a movie, don't try to sell it as a book and saying, "Oh, it was always there," based on a best-selling graphic novel that we heard of yesterday. Come on, guys.
Yeah, you gotta wonder. It's like with connections these days. It's. I mean, forming connections is always a good thing. However, clearly abusing it, yeah, that's gonna burn some bridges in the future.
Yeah, and I don't think this creator doesn't have a chance as a respectable creator in the future. I mean, even if the book is going to be nominated, it has an option to be a movie or a screenplay. So it's that I don't trust your product. I mean, you could be lying. If you wrote it as far to cover up the book, it's not a bestseller novel just so people can notice it. You could probably be lying about your script. I mean, there could be worst case scenario that you plagiarize, which I don't think this person's did, but there's a possibility, right? You lied once.
And also, remember, it has the option to be a movie.
Oh, that's true. That's right. If the studio does pick it up, that's a whole different.
Yeah, so trying to lie about your reputation, trying to lie about your product, well in the future, especially, we can do a simple Google check.
No, believe it or not, so many people fact checked it. They confirmed where the tweet came from, where the sticker came from, who the person had connections to, and it was an amazing thing they went through. They found out this person was connected to a former member of I think NSYNC or something, and they found out that person made a phone call to a publisher who used to work at the time, was a New York Times publisher, set her fire. It was wicked.
Yeah, so she used her connections in the system to try and pass off being a New York Times bestseller. Didn't count on the fact that we're nerds. We obsess over everything. It's both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing and a curse.
It is. I think the best part about it. I think the best part about the story was, in my honest opinion, I think the fact is, like, you and I, when we saw the book and we saw the story, we were like, this just doesn't seem right. And you can't fake that sense of, this sensation, this uneasiness. I just figure everyone who was in on this who helped found the fraudulence of this book, you guys all give a thumbs up.
Oh yeah, you do. I mean, just whenever you see bullshit like that, if it makes you raise an eyebrow, don't be afraid to actually explore. I mean, just because we're on the internet and also somebody posts it up, that doesn't mean you should believe it with 100% loyalty or something, unless, it's us, which you should totally believe 100% of the time. You should totally.
Yeah. Yes. Like Jules Chan, real name is Robert Harris, who is the CEO of DC Comic Books, right?
You never knew I lived on Guam, huh? Dan the deal, your ass is mine.
Well, you do not sell his comic books.
Yeah, I'm gonna fire him soon.
Oh man! And speaking of, well, you really can't fire Dan Didio because, as much as DC has some slip-ups, the Young Animal line has been extremely successful for them, and that people have started to think, on a serious note, does Marvel need a Young Animal line of the same idea for their fringe or younger heroes, or the less-known characters?
I think, let's see, how many young heroes do they have currently? Like, Spidey doesn't count anymore. He's already moved on to becoming more, more of an adult, or at least a young adult. There's Miss Marvel, there's Squirrel Girl, there's...
Actually, Squirrel Girl's in college. But yeah, the same idea. Yeah, she's young.
And I guess the Young Avengers, which they keep saying maybe we'll bring them back, maybe not. Like, okay,
actually, the
that's
Runaways.
Whatever. Oh yeah, the Runaways. There's Miss America. There's. I mean, yeah, they do have a decent amount of young heroes nowadays. There was the New Warriors thing, but that didn't do so well. I think it only lasted like 10, 12 issues.
The New Warriors has always been an interesting concept. I just feel like they never had the right way to execute. But if they had a line like Young Animal did with DC, I think it would work better. It'll be less stress for them to be mainstream, and they can have a bit more breathing room. And I feel that's what a Young Animal line would do if Marvel had one. That's what I feel it would do for them. Because a lot of these characters we mentioned just can't grow under the mainstream line because they're being bogged down by legacy characters or just the main Marvel storyline. Whatever it happens to be.
Although, considering what we discussed in our last podcast, which you guys should totally check out, I don't know if publishing a new line in Marvel right now would be a good idea, especially with characters that the public don't know that well. It would not survive that well, especially considering that their comics are still piling up on each other and, cannibalizing each other in terms of sales. This is kind of reminiscent of what would have what happened over at DC when they put Threshold, I think it was, and it was just
sale. But yeah, sale thresholds. But sale thresholds has always been a thing. I think that's. I mean, there's only so much investment you can do before you realize it's a bad idea.
Oh no! I mean, like, there was a comic series that was over at DC during the midst of the New 52, was reintroducing some DC space characters. The problem is that a lot of these space characters, they're very obscure. Like, not a lot of DC fans know who they are.
Oh, you mean like Omega Men?
Yeah. So when you're trying to put something new out, when you already have a gajillion other things currently active, the likelihood of this getting canceled is very good. A very good chance that this will be canceled. Because something new and obscure, I'm not saying that new and obscure things can't make their way to the top. I'm not saying that. It's just with Marvel right now, with all of the stuff they're publishing, I don't know if introducing a new team of characters would be, especially with no star power whatsoever, would actually survive all that long.
I don't know. I mean, Jules, not to be mean. This one thing. It sounds a bit more pessimistic. I think because Young Animal was successful with a bunch of fringe characters with with good marketing. I mean, Doom Patrol is famous, but not really kind of a huge, I would say, team name. Same thing could be said about Shade the Changing Girl, the Shade series, which were created by Ditko. Shade the Ever-Changing Man was now Shade the Ever-Changing Girl. Even give her a gender swap. The concept of that universe is way beyond whatever DC has been ever done in the last, like, 5-6 years.
But that's what I was also gonna suggest as the solution. There is a solution to that, which is good marketing, which is kind of hard to come by nowadays. It's just Marvel, stop try just get good marketing. Like you're good at you're good at it. It's just stop trying to.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. You're right. They're good at the marketing. I feel like they're marketing heavily on people who already sell, as well as the cannibalism of each other. Like, for example, people may not know that Gwenpool. I keep trying to tell people, yo, Gwenpool's a pretty good book. I know it doesn't look like a legitimate comic book. It doesn't have the aesthetics of what you expect, but it's a pretty good comic book. Gwenpool's really good.
But as for Young Animals, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the Young Animals?
Yeah, the Young Animal line currently has, I think, 5 books. Bug, The Adventures of Bug, which just is brand new. You have Cave Carson's Cybernetic Eye, Mother Panic, Shade the Changing Girl, and Doom Patrol. All those books are essentially used for the fringe or lesser known characters of the DC universe and some new characters, and they put a different spin on them, and they have much more freedom what they can do.
Which is not bad. I mean, God knows that DC writers could use a shorter leash, especially since that was a problem. Again, with the New 52, with them being put on short leashes, but with a strict editorial mandate. Now, here, the writers have a bit more room to play.
Right. And it's pretty, like I said, thanks to the editorial management as well as Gerard Way being a part of the Young Animal line. We gotta give him his credit when credit's due. But I feel like if Marvel had the same effect for these other books, like, for example, they're bringing back the Runaways. They're bringing back Generation X is already out. You have a bunch of other smaller characters. You have the IP of the New Warriors. I think you could put them in a Young Animal-esque line, or even like America, the New America, Miss America, into this line like Young Animal, and I think it could sell for them because it'll have a different take. And I think with proper marketing, it could work. Though Marvel has always been wary about using extra. They're in the Maximum line. They have Marvel Knights line, and they have Ultimate line. I think they're a bit wary of it. That's just what I feel.
But as for Young Animals, I'm actually kind of excited for the Doom Patrol. Like, I feel like this one has a bit more lively, a bit more. How do I say this? A bit more energy to it. Like these.
Oh yeah, it's not as depressing. No.
Oh yeah, especially with Elastigirl, she can't stop smiling, otherwise her face will fall apart. What?
Most. But in all seriousness, the new Doom Patrol, the first trade's out. You can pick it up. I think it contains the first 6 issues. Definitely worth the purchase. Looking at it, and it had, like I said, I think if Marvel was to do something like this, I think it could work for them. But I do agree with you. The way that Marvel's been overloading, I don't think it's a good idea. Maybe when they downsize, maybe after a downsize, they can.
Yeah, like downsizing in terms of comics, not downsizing in creators. Like, no, we don't want anyone fired.
No, I mean, there is like one guy, but
well,
he doesn't count.
There are few people.
No, I'm just saying, just maybe Greg Land. His art is so bad.
Yes.
Porn face everywhere. I can't stand that.
Get rid of him. How do these people ask me? How do these people keep getting work? Oh, they know people in the company, and
my honest to goodness joke about it is because Greg Land is on time. Like, you don't pay Greg Land just because it's great art. He gets stuff done on time.
Yeah, want to know why? Because he traces
so hard.
But anyway, yeah. So,
speaking of bad creators or creators that have gotten limelight, Josh Whedon, if you guys may have heard, has been a lot of scrutiny lately. Jules, take the reins on this.
do I begin? Well, guys, just because Joss Whedon quit Twitter supposedly, that doesn't mean he's gone. He's still creating stuff. You guys know Joss Whedon from Buffy. You guys know him from Angel. You know him obviously for what movie? Oh yeah, The Avengers and whatnot.
Oh, and if you guys remember, Fireflies.
Oh yes, Firefly. Yes. But when is it coming back? Uh,
Yeah,
but
about that.
but yeah, Joss Whedon. They he has been announced to direct and produce a film for Batgirl.
Right.
Or actually
And,
no, just direct it. Just direct a film for Batgirl.
right.
And
Here's
you
where things
know,
get creepy.
pardon?
No, here's where things get creepy. He's been announced that he's going to be directing the next Batgirl movie. Everyone's excited, etc., etc. But then out of nowhere, his ex-wife and I believe there's a bunch of other women, I believe also has made accusations and proof about him that he is, and cut to say, guys, an asshole. He's not really as feminist or as open-minded as one would believe.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that given Buffy, which a lot, which a lot of, let's be honest here, a lot of us love Buffy. A lot of us
Yeah.
really, really love Buffy. But sometimes, just because it seems like they're very pro-feminist or pro-women or girl power, you gotta read between the lines. Does he really get it? Or is he just trying to jump on a bandwagon so that way he can seem important?
But here's the thing about it. It's hard to say the bandwagon army because he's been writing a strong female character for years.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and the thing about it is, does that draw the line to people not to like him anymore? Because he is a terrible human being. Let's not get that straight. But he has been writing strong female characters, and he is a good writer. He is very talented. I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
take that away from him.
Otherwise we wouldn't want, even if I were to talk to him, even knowing full well that he can be a bit hard to be around, but I will acknowledge that he has done some good work. And I will also acknowledge that my hatred, this little debacle doesn't make me hate him as much as I do Frank Miller. Like, there's a very clear difference between my hatred for Frank Miller and my annoyance at Joss Whedon. There's
Yeah.
a difference. With Joss Whedon, I feel more annoyed. Frank
And
Miller.
I feel.
You were gonna say something there?
Oh yeah, I feel. Yeah, for my take, I feel, but for Josh, I feel a bit perturbed, and I scratch my head. Like, I can't trust him. I'm like, it's a crying shame that someone who has your talent to write female characters and put them in a positive light is an asshole. And as you're hating the same thing as you were mentioning about Frank Miller.
Yeah, it's more disappointing with Joss, but that doesn't mean I'm never going to any of his movies or read any of his stuff if he ever writes something in the future. But with Frank Miller, it's very half and half. It's like I'm not gonna read Dark Knight 3 or whatever. Like,
Oh god, yeah, that's awful.
even if there's another writer on it, no, it's like no. Especially after Holy Terror or All-Star Batman and Robin, no. And also given the fact that even his fellow creators do not like Frank Miller at all. Like, not even Grant Morrison. Not Grant Morrison and Gail Simone, they really don't like him. And his political views alone, there's a big difference.
Yeah, but for me though, I grew up with Frank, so I guess I'm a little more sympathetic, but it's more like I have a hard line. Like, Frank Miller's greatest contribution to comics was Wolverine.
Daredevil.
Yeah, Daredevil, Wolverine. Daredevil's amazing. That made me fall in love with the character. Martha Washington and Batman Year One. Everything after that's like, I'm up. Get out of my face. Goodbye.
Yeah, Batman versus Spawn.
Oh, God, versus Spawn. Yeah.
The Holy Terror, where it's not Batman. His name is the Fixer. His outfit doesn't look anything like Batman. See, it's brown, and he's killing terrorists. And there's a lot of racism in the book. It's like, sorry, Frank, no, you don't get to play the propaganda card, and at the same time demonstrate your very clear racism and xenophobia. Where it's, but how do we draw that line between we know he's a terrible person, but his work is really good? It's kind of like with James Woods, he's actually a dick in real life.
Oh yeah, that joke on Family Guy is not a joke; it's real.
Yeah, I mean, he is funny on screen. On screen, he's funny. In real life,
he's a monster.
Yeah. And he knows it. He knows he is. Otherwise, he wouldn't be willing to do the joke on screen.
And I think the hard line comes from, I guess, people's perception. But in my opinion, though, it bothers me. This is what bothers me about Josh, because it does make sense of him being, I would say, not a real feminist in the sense of equality and whatnot, because he left the Marvel set because of criticism for his movies. Remember that?
Yeah, the whole Age of Ultron thing where Black Widow didn't feel like a normal person, or she called herself a monster because she's not able to have a child. That was very heavy, man. It would have been, I would have been okay if it was just like she's had a part of her taken from her, like an aspect of her that has been taken. But calling herself a monster was very much crossing the line.
There was also a couple of parts in the movie that just felt weird, like the reusing of that language, the Steve language joke. That got annoying after a while.
Yeah.
It was funny the first 3 times.
First couple of times. But we get it. He's a Boy Scout.
Right, exactly. And he didn't take that criticism well, and he snapped, which is terrible because if the DC movie, the DC Batgirl movie goes through, and let's just say they decide to call up, Brendan Fletcher, Babs Tarrs, and Gail Simone to co-write or be part of the movie process, could you imagine him working with other people who have different opinions of him? Remember, for Age of Ultron, he essentially worked a lot by himself, mostly. He worked with people.
And it shows.
Yeah.
But if you were to put him in the same room as, let's say, Gail Simone, the same writing room as Gail Simone, chances are they're going to try to kill each other. They are going to try to kill each other.
Right, and these are both opinion people. And I also mentioned like Fletcher and Babs Tarr, who also helped recreate Batgirl for the modern era. Like, I'm sorry, like regardless people say, I do like the new 52 costume of Batgirl. Looks nice.
I like it too. But yeah. Joss, you've been in this industry for how long?
Yeah, he's in the mid-40s.
And you don't know how to handle criticism. I get it, like, tweets can be annoying, but Joss, you do know that there is a way to mute tweets, right?
Or better yet, it hurts me more because, again, someone who's a quote-unquote feminist, quote-unquote, and, oh god, it bums me out. It's like, okay, most people who are like feminists or people who have the ideology, whatever you say, are generally more empathetic people. And if you look up, as people said about the articles about him, when you look up anything, his recent Homecoming, you realize he's not empathetic at all. He's just a prick.
Yeah, I mean, for a good example of a feminist writer, Gail Simone. Gail Simone, well, yes, I've heard that she can be hard to work with, but the way she conducts herself tends to be very professional, except for that one time with the whole She-Hulk incident, and then she went out on a giant tirade on Twitter. Just that one time. Just
Right.
no,
And
seriously.
also,
I was
also
wondering
you can
what the
put
heck is going on, Gail. What is all of these? Oh, this doesn't sound good. But for the most part, she conducts herself fairly professional, and she's very open to criticism if you're not working with her. But
right.
but
But
with
like I said,
Joss,
you can also consider another writer and artist, Terry Moore, as a feminist because he wrote *Strangers in Paradise*. You consider because those is a very strong female book about women growing up in the late '80s, early '90s. You could say the same thing about the Hernandez brothers for creating the Love and Rocket books and universe. So, in my opinion, I think people's definitions of a feminist writer is changing to writing female characters, writing believable female characters. I think Josh Whedon's idea of a female character being strong is going to be dwindled badly because he places them on this amazing pedestal and he's an asshole. Like he's chasing
yeah,
that girlfriend he can never get,
yeah, and also should know better than to lash out against criticism because whenever a creator does that, we can hear that from a mile away.
Oh yeah,
Like everyone can hear Zack Snyder crying over "It's my vision. No one understands my vision." Everyone's heard
exactly.
that.
Like I know more about Batman and Superman than you. I'm like, dude, seriously? That's mad
Well,
insulting. Will the idea of feminist, what we consider a feminist writer outside of their attitudes, change? Because, in my opinion, now that I have this light of him, hearing him, I think that Josh Whedon creates strong female characters for storytelling, which is good and cool, but he puts them on the pedestal, like an Amazon or something like that. And he makes it unattainable. It's so awesome that I wish I could be that, which kind of fantasizes it or fetishizes it, which I don't think that's cool because it doesn't add that sense of flaw and error, like if you read *Strangers in Paradise* or *Love and Rockets* or *Echo*
well,
or any
for
Terry
me,
Moore book, really.
the only putting them on a pedestal should only for me, it's like putting them on a pedestal isn't that bad since they're the main character of a book,
Right.
but it's only a problem if it clashes with their character. Like, for
True.
example, how Jeff Johns tries to write Wonder Woman, and he keeps propping her on a high horse, which is really not indicative of her character. She's very sweet, she's very humble, she's not this proud person that we need to knock off the pedestal.
Okay.
So putting them on a pedestal isn't so much of a problem unless it really, really clashes with their character.
Right. But here's
If
the
it is
thing, though.
something
It's
to if it's something to idolize, like an aspiration, then that's great. Aspire to be something greater, but also keep in mind, are you sure this is pedestal worthy? Are you sure, Joss? Is your idea of women really something that other women want to attain or something?
right. And here's the scary part about it: is to be super for real. Is what if what he thinks of women are, and it doesn't reflect what he is. It's like he's like writing is a job for him, like the unhappy chef who cooks here. The unhappy chef. That's the best way to put it. He cooks. He's a great cook, but he's unhappy. It's just a job to him. He has no pleasure. It just puts food on the table. So what if we
Yeah.
learned that, Josh Whedon? Like all this writing just puts food on the table. I don't care. Screw this crap. No one else is writing about women, so I just did it because it puts food on the table. I mean, that's just being negative as possible. I hope that's not true.
Oh, I hope so. I hope that's not the case either. So that makes it even all the more depressing.
Yeah.
But on the positive side, it could, it is a job that he really loves doing, and I can imagine him really loving doing this job. It's just that he has to shoulder a lot of criticism and scrutiny. A lot of it can be very, very valid.
Though I feel most of the scrutiny he's gotten, he's kind of deserves it because, to be fair, to be fair, people do have complaints about things. People have the right to do it. I personally think there's a fine line between trolling and being critical. Like, for example, when people tell me that they think I'm over analytical about comics, so I take it as a criticism. It's true, I am over because I think about it a lot. I think about like what goes into the book, who makes this, what decision to it. Like, I may be overcritical of Josh Whedon right now, but I think it's the best path to think about it because this is a man who's been claimed as a hero to women comics and creating strong female characters for over 2 decades. And now we realize he's a jerk off. What does that mean for the work he's done? What does that mean for work he will create?
Yeah, will he go down the dark path of writers like Frank Miller or something?
Or or Ethan Van Sciver, who I have more hatred for than Josh Whedon and Frank Miller combined because he actually posted this stuff and tried to claim it was a joke. There's nothing funny about posting a dude hanging himself. Seriously.
Or even Orson Scott Card, who is proudly and openly homophobic and who almost started to write Superman. Almost. But, yeah, but with Joss, at the moment, he can still pull himself out of it if he pulls himself out of his manhole.
Manhole. I'm worried about if we'll have the domino effect, like what happened to Bill Cosby. I know it's a completely unrelated. Actually, no, skip Bill Cosby. What happened to Brian Wood? Or Scott Lobel? We found out these guys sexually assaulted various women. And one will report it, and another one. I wonder if they have a domino effect.
Yeah, because with Scott Lobdell, I know for a fact that he is indeed a good writer. And like even during Convergence, he is a good writer. But after what happened at a certain panel, yeah, let's say the Teen Titan books kind of declined after that.
Yeah, my opinion of Scott Lobel, he's a very 90s writer, and like I give him credit for doing Generation X for a while, but some X-Men, that's about it. I do like his new Red Hood and the Outlaws, on the Rebirth. That's pretty okay, but yeah, it's alright. But think like Brian Wood's sexual allegations began like when one were reported, then happened over and over again. And I'm worried that this might happen to Josh Whedon because his ex-wife said it. Then maybe another writer who knows who said it, and a woman who he on TV said the same thing. And it would be one of the worst things that ever could happen to him. Because right now, it's just his ex-wife that we know said this to him. We all have to think about it. Like, she was married to him for a period of time. This can't be.
And we're wondering, like, are we going to learn more and more about him? And as time goes on, we're going to see the faults of his writing that we never thought were there before.
Exactly.
Here's the thing: it's like I admire his tenacity as being pro-feminist. However, there are some people who do get too excited and take it a bit too far. It's kind of like when you champion the fact that you're a proud nerd, but then you'll stamp down hard on anybody who looks at you funny, but then do not realize that if you have a statue, a decapitated statue, I think it was Dead or Alive, or if you have very weird novelty, don't stand there and think, oh, this looks weird to people, obviously. Like, I'm very sure if anyone saw the amount of body pillows that I have right now, shut up, they would find it weird. They're obviously going to find it weird. Like, I'm a very proud nerd, but I'm willing to admit that I do something wrong, or I do something weird. If someone finds this weird, then, it's very valid. So, Joss, if people... Yeah, it's great that you believe in strong women. It really is a good thing. But this one thing with Black Widow...
Oh, God, from the second Avengers movie.
Yeah. Was a mistake that you should have reevaluated. Or, at the very least, just say sorry. It
was so wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we're not questioning the fact that we're not saying that all your work sucks. It's just this one very controversial thing that you did was wrong. And the fans were, especially your female audience, who really looked up to you for over the years. Like, seriously, I have how many female geek friends who really look up to you, And then you say that if you can't have a baby, you're a monster.
Which is a very weird thing to say to women because you're pretty much saying that women, because I'm not saying it's a large statistic, there are some women who cannot give birth to children for medical reasons. And it's like they have to deal with this stigmatism every day till the rest of their damn lives so they meet their maker. Don't do that, bro. Seriously.
Yeah.
You're judging women because they can produce children. That's kind of, oh god, that could have been a start that proves he's a fake feminist. Bro, think about it. If he said that in a movie, why would he do that? For a guy who understands women, why would he make that a plot point?
I'm very sure it's just this one instance that he just doesn't get. This
I'm
one
gonna be digging too deep.
But yeah, Joss, we love you, but we're kind of weary of you right now.
Yeah. Speaking of weariness, that was a pretty deep dive into Joss Whedon. Probably the deepest dive into Whedonverse.
I really recommend everybody watch Buffy, especially you youngins who come up to me and say, "What's Buffy?" You don't know what Buffy is? Let me tell you about the Vampire Slayer.
Let me tell you about the good old days.
Where she had a witch friend who didn't know that she was a lesbian until later on.
I love how they explore that in the comics. But speaking of comics, guys, here comes the best part of the podcast. This year, we recommend you a monthly. I'm going to recommend the super reprint edition of the Scouts book series done by Jason Aaron and R.M. Guerrera. It is a story about a Indian who is an undercover FBI agent who goes back into his hometown reservation, and bad things go down from here. Pretty interesting. It's great. It's one thing that started Jason Aaron's career. I recommend that.
And I know I've mentioned this before, but Jason Aaron, he's worked a lot on the X-Men books. So if any of you are familiar with Jason Aaron, his amazing X-Men book, if you liked that, then chances are you might like this. Well, different.
Actually, I think he also worked on Wolverine and the X-Men.
Yes, he also worked on Wolverine and the X-Men, so if you love Joss Whedon's writing, which I do also, then you may love this book too. And your next recommendation?
Sure, my next recommendation is Tomboy by Mia Goodwin. The writer is Mia Goodwin. And this book is amazing. It's the final arc. It's 12 issues. It's a little bit meta how it ends, but it's really, really cool how she finally managed to piece this entire dark story so it ends. I am super surprised that it did not win an Eisner for the limited series or anything, but I recommend if you get the Tomboy series by Action Lab, all Danger Zone, dude. It's the same company. Get all 3 trades. You'll enjoy the entire ride. And
okay.
the final book I recommend is the New Teen Titans Volume 7. DC finally reprinted the most famous arc of the Teen Titans, the Judas Contract. If you haven't read the New Teen Titans, pick up all 6 reprints and pick up 7, because it links to the Judas Contract, and you can see why so many people like myself and Jules have the Teen Titans in high regards because of what Marv Wolfman and George Perez done with these characters.
I mean, seriously, I even have the new Teen Titans trades on my shelf right now. It's it was that worth it. It was worth the $30.
Wait, is that the hardcover, or you picked the
soft cover?
Oh,
all of them soft cover.
Oh wait, the soft cover is $20.
Wait, $20? Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think the hardcover is $30.
Oh wait,
the
it was $20.
They just made.
It was worth. Each of them are worth $20. Yes.
Yeah.
And also, yes, I would prefer I know, guys, the Terror arc in the Teen Titans cartoon was great, but nothing.
No, but
that was the PG version. Nothing compared to the psychopath, the sociopath Terra in the comics. Yeah, and also she slept with Deadpool, I think. Yeah, she did.
Yeah, Deathstroke. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Deathstroke. Deathstroke, yes. She slept with Deathstroke. And she was not sympathetic in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, she was straight up psycho.
Yeah, she manipulated the people around her. Her
And the
feelings
worst
for
part is the reasoning isn't that strong, but you can kind of feel where she was coming from. But you, like I
and,
said, you have to read the whole story through.
and also not that Teen Titans recently animated no. Sorry, no. Just no. Just stop trying to recreate it and just go with
Doing it wrong,
just go with Marv Wolfman. Dang it! Don't fix what isn't broken. Dang it!
pretty much.
I know. DC, you want to make it more modernized, but here's the thing: don't fix what isn't broken. The Judas
Yeah, the
contract
story.
is fine.
Yeah, the story already works.
But yes, Marv Wolfman's New Teen Titans is
George Perez, yeah.
yes. Oh yeah, and the artwork by George Perez is great.
Yeah. At one point, I think in the comics, they just called them co-creators and just like because they worked together on it and they deserve both top billing on it.
Oh yeah. Now for my comic recommendations, I will be for anyone who follows me on social media, assuming anyone does, I have been very much enjoying the American Gods series, which is based on Neil Gaiman's work of the same name, American Gods. I both recommend both the book and the movie, but that's not what my monthly recommendation is going to be, since a certain someone told me he has not gotten that well into Neil Gaiman.
Hey, I just don't drink the Gaiman's juice. Okay, it's just too strong for me.
You don't like drinking his very, very weird fantasy horror kind of juice, huh?
To be honest with you, no. To be honest with you, I just never had a chance to do a full dive on him. I know what he's famous for. I know what he's done. I understand the cult following around him. I mean, the only series I plan on reading by him that he created is probably Lucifer, but he didn't write that, so.
It was just a spin-off of Sandman, which is what I'm recommending. Preludes and Nocturnes, Volume 1 by Neil Gaiman, and the art by, wow, there are so many artists on this one. Sam Keith, Mike Dingenberg, I don't know if I'm pronouncing
Sam
it
Keith
right.
is amazing.
Malcolm Jones III, and Dave McKean. And I have to say, just on the artwork alone, it's a trip because they don't use panels conventionally. It's all very busy, and that's what you can't. How do I explain? Well, just from the story itself, this when it comes to writing, I always denounce the term overpowered, overrated, or Mary Sue. There's a reason why. Because if Neil Gaiman can take beings called the Endless, who are older than even gods, that are living personifications of concepts, and also considered royalty among immortals, and take you to these otherworldly places, see different facets of the DC universe that we would never normally visit. We went to hell in the third issue. We went to hell. And tell a very creative story, then you have no excuse. The thing about Neil Gaiman is that he tells stories about stories. In American Gods, he tells the story of old gods versus new, and how the gods themselves are living stories. It's the same case even with Sandman. Sandman, he's a metaphysical concept interacting what we view as religion, which people tend to take as fact, but in his world, they're stories brought to life. It's how do I say this?
It's meta. That's one
It's
thing
very
about it.
meta. It's very, very meta. And also, it starts out as horror, then dips into fantasy. There's a lot of again, we went to hell in the third issue. The first arc is mostly about Morpheus, the King of Dreams, who has been captured by a bunch of cultists for over 70 years. And after he breaks out and wreaked his vengeance on his captors, he goes to reclaim his stolen objects and rebuild his realm. Because, you're the personification of dreams, and if you're captured for 70 years, like, oh, dang, how much How out of balance has the world become without me? And how much of my nightmares have escaped from my realm? Oh no, what kind of horrors? And if you really like things like mythology or fantasy or even just horror in general, again, we went to hell and he talked down Lucifer with just one word or with just one phrase. Like, why should why should why should we let you out, King of Dreams? Because if you don't, your inmates are not going to be able to dream about heaven, and that is going to be a horrible fate for all of you.
Ah,
Or it sounds more awesome when you actually see it. It's just a trip in on itself. And in the end of the issue, we see his sister, who is more famous than even him, Death, and it's a delight just to even just see her and the lesson that she has to bestow upon him. In a way, reading this even gives a better sense of perspective, even on life, even just by the end story. So that's how. God, I love this series. I love it so much. Uh, but yeah, I'm done gushing about Sandman Preludes and Nocturnes Volume 1.
eh.
But and also you can try to question whether or not this is canon to the DC universe, considering
Oh, it's not.
that
It's not. Sandman is something. It's a vertical line. Vertical lines are not considered. Most of them are not considered.
but yet we see the Justice League, we see the Martian Manhunter. Yeah, he appears in this too. And also or even the Justice League appears in it a little bit. And sometimes we see Sandman in the DC universe along with his sister Death, so it's kind of maybe yes, maybe no kind of canonicity.
Pre 52 days. Yeah, those are like question mark stuff. But most, I want to say, even the 8, they try to separate as much vertical stuff from the.
Yeah, we haven't even seen them in the new 52 universe. Like, do they even still exist in the... Like, does Sandman and his sister Death still exist? Huh. Then again, we've had how many universe resetting events and they're still around, so yeah, maybe they're out there. And they just don't want to deal with the crap of the new 52 that Oh, okay, that makes sense. They didn't want to deal with it. But my next... my next recommendation, that is... hopefully I won't gush over. In the previous video, again, we mentioned how with Marvel right now, they're pushing out a lot of books, and it's kind of hard to see the gems in the giant bin. How do I say this? It's like going to It's kind of like going to a superstore, but one that isn't organized, and you have to find the hidden gems. And some books aren't getting as much attention, and they're kind of eating themselves alive in terms of sales.
Oh, hells yeah.
So I want to recommend, Iceman issue number 5. I recommended it last time, but I feel like with something so new and also a main character, or at least a very popular character among Marvel, and also I think Iceman's been a mainstay of the X-Men for like how long? Like at least almost staple worthy, Like if you think the X-Men, you think Iceman nowadays also. And the fact that, if for those who don't know, he just recently came out, or no, not recently. A year ago he came out. And that was big news. And I feel like in this issue he does eventually come out to his parents, which I find hilarious because the scene with Iceman in the X-Men movies, there's a lot of gay symbolism in there. A lot. Especially considering that the movies were written by 2 gay men. So with Iceman, it's not so much changing him, it's more like this is a new thing. This is a new facet of his personality. We're both giving him a new series, which is entertaining in its own right, while entering a new phase in his life that he's coming to terms with. It's like, it's not so much changing him. We're learning something new about him, something that we never thought was there before. And it is doing well for his character. Like, he's readjusting himself. It's still Bobby. This is the same guy who will still glomp for attention, who will still make the joke, who will still do things based on Bobby logic. But it's I think it's the development that he needed for a while. Like you can still be the jokester, but also be honest with yourself. Like be very honest with who you are. Because, a lot of people who joke tend to hide something. Like the ones who laugh the most tend to be the ones with the most problems.
That is a lie. I was not laughing. I was not laughing at the jokes you said because they were funny, okay? I'm not laughing at the internal sadness I'm feeling, right? Not me. Papa, come on, Papa. Papa.
Oh, Matt, we're gonna have a talk. Do we need to have a talk later with your therapist?
Oh, man.
But yeah, Iceman has been enjoyable so far. I think it is a good turn in the right direction for him. A lot of people have been very happy about it. And, well, yeah, a lot of people have been very happy about it. It's a shame that it's not getting as much attention as, per se, other books. Like Secret Empire, obviously that's getting the most attention right now.
Oh, yeah, Marvel's been promoting that to a point where they kind of backpedal themselves. You promoted bad Captain America only so you can make good Captain America be part of the story again. Denounce making the whole 6-7 issues of bad Captain America be worthless.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like, wow, okay. Well, I'm happy we have him back. Thanks for wasting our time for how many months, Marvel?
Exactly. The worst part about it is I thought he would have that battle inside himself because, the good try to fight. I thought it would be more psychological, not physical.
That's what I thought it was, but then, oh wait, it's actually him there. So, yeah, I think that's all the time we have, guys. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening to our wonderful tirade about Joss Whedon.
And don't steal.
Don't steal, and don't try to manipulate the system in your favor, guys. I've had
because
to deal
we'll
with
find out.
We'll find out. Carry yourself well in public when it comes to criticism, and focus it into something more productive. Also, apologize when you screw up. And also, don't try to manipulate the system in your favor just because you can.
Yeah, that just never works. Never.
And also, yes, we would love to have a new line in Marvel featuring more young superheroes, but
or quirky heroes.
Or quirky heroes.
Yeah, because it's I feel like it worked for DC, and it's not because just copy what DC's doing, copy what Marvel doing. I think the fringe heroes or the new heroes have a much better chance of establishing themselves better.
But it all depends on marketing.
It depends on marketing. I think it also depends on interaction for your team. I feel like Marvel's in this weird spot where they are.
We'll have to see in the future.
Yeah, we also pray that Dan Didio doesn't screw this up. Yeah,
no,
Dan,
I'm gonna fire him. I'm gonna fire him.
Sure, Robert Harris.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Please check out our previous stuff. Please check out my stuff, and please check out Matt's other podcasts and his other appearances.
Yeah, the A1 podcast.
He has A1 podcast. Wait, did I pronounce that wrong?
A1. Like the
podcast?
steak sauce, but better because we're still in school.
A1 podcast, and even though I'm far more fabulous than him, but yeah, please support me on Patreon too. Please support more of our work on the Outer Haven, which we post where we can. I swear, I'm trying to stick to a deadline. I swear.
2018.
2018. The next podcast is 2018. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Remember, don't steal, don't be a dick, and please conduct yourself professionally in public, unlike me.
Bye.
All right. See ya. Bye.